Welcome back to the Adonai Games Gameplay Animation Workshop. Today we're going to continue on with what we built off yesterday, which would be 2D blend spaces. There are some fixes and some changes that are required to be made so that our code functions properly. The first of which would be us changing the uh, direction value. Earlier we were using a get velocity uh, we weren't using get velocity, we were just using vector length after the get actor rotation, and it was giving us some issues, so we decided to switch to calculate direction. This is literally just replacing the older code block, and it inherits from the get velocity function, the get actor rotation, that it plugs into the ABP direction. If you hover over it, it will tell you that the values it takes is negative 180 to positive 180. This is simply negative 180 degrees to positive 180 degrees, as we looked at in our diagram, which we're going to go into in a little bit. So we changed that. Everything else is the same here. Uh, and we also renamed our walk slash idle to default movement because it's only for standing. And then we looked at what different parts, components of our main character blueprint we have. One of them being the character movement component. Among the character movement component, there is something known as the character movement rotation setting. This dictates if our character is going to rotate based on if our mouse is moving or if our character is moving itself, etc. So the first of them is orient rotation to movement. What this orient rotation to movement does is if this is turned on, and if I click play, then our character is going to walk in whichever direction I am pressing the keybind to. So if I'm walking straight, then he's going to continue to walk straight. If I press left, then my character is going to turn left. He's still going to walk straight. He's going to use the jog forward animation, but he's going to be pointing towards the right side. Same for back, left, everything. Okay. And the other one being um, the user-controlled desired rotation. This is what is responsible for giving the animation blueprint this calculate direction part, so it can tell how much of our character has changed its value. So if that is toggled off and then this is also toggled off, then basically our character is not going to, I pressed right click to play, so it didn't do it right here. Our character, as you can see, our character can move left and right, uh, but he cannot walk backwards. Or like he can walk backwards, but he's never going to turn backwards. Which is why we have the whole turning based on uh, oriented rotation and movement. So what we've done here is we've dragged out the character movement component, and as we can see, this is a Boolean function, the rotation setting. We can make sure that our character movement, we can just look up orient movement rotation, and then we can plug that in with the aim button. So we're trying to do this so our character, whenever he is aiming, he's going to start using our blend spaces properly. Otherwise, he's going to use the regular animations. So this is the regular animations, and as soon as we right click to aim, then he starts strafing. Okay, now we also updated our animations based on this diagram. And let me go over this diagram real quick. So this circle represents the degrees of motion a character can have. If you look at this triangle, this means our character is facing the forward direction. So it can go forward. If it wants to turn, it can turn right, it can turn left, or it can turn backwards, but it can turn backwards from left or the right direction. So instead of it being on a circle, what we've done is we've kind of opened up the circle and we've made it into a straight line. So our character has moved forward, then he has walk right, then he has walk backwards. So as soon as it's 180 degrees, but it's still in the forward direction, then it's going to flip the direction. This is combined of 360 degrees to complete a full range of motion circle, negative 180 degrees for the left side, and positive 180 degrees for the right side. So now that we've opened up uh, our circle in a line, we can also put it on a blend space. So that's what we've tried to do here. Let me go for the jog blend space. So as you can see, what we've done is we've changed the direction values and the speed values. So the direction goes from negative 180 to positive 180. This is to represent the same calculate direction function that we were using earlier. And then our speed goes from 0 to 900. You can still keep the negative speed because it can sometimes have uses, but if you don't want to, that's fine. For the scope of this workshop, you're never going to need it, hopefully. Uh, anyway, so if you look at the 0 speed, that means our character is completely not supposed to have any speed at all, so it's not moving at all. All the 5 animations here are just the idles. So you can place multiple idle animations here so you can swap between the two. Yeah, our end goal is so that it's not blending it while there is no animation there, so it's not trying to run right while it's at 0 speed. Okay, and just like this diagram, we have 5 divisions, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We have the same 5 divisions here, so 4 divisions will give you 5 blocks, 1, 2, 3, 4, but you have 5 places you can put your animations in. The first one is at 0 direction, which means it's 0 degrees to the left or 0 degrees to the right, and that means that's the only one which has the speed. So this has the jog forward option, and then you can also extend that to being a sprint. Okay, and then there is the negative 90, which is the left direction. If you hover over it, you can see negative 90, and then finally negative 180. So this is the backwards walk. It's similar for the other side, but in the positive direction. So positive 90 for the right side, and then positive 180 for the backwards. So we did the same thing for our crouch walks. This is forward, this is left, this is right, this is backwards, and the other side is also backward, and we did the same thing for the iron side as well. Okay, and as long as you have the minimum maximum values properly sorted out, you don't need the minimum value here. You can make it 0, but if you want to leave the negative values, you can. Just make sure you're placing them on the correct one. So after you place it, you hover over it, and it will tell you direction and speed. Direction and speed are the names of the axes we've given, and that's going to dictate inside our character where they're going to move. So this direction and speed, this comes from this part here. Okay, and yeah, that's about all we learned. And if you guys wanted to remember what I gave for the homework, I basically told you guys to work on your own character and have a two-dimensional blend space for it. Your own character meaning the one which you have rigged with your own skeleton or whichever one you're working on animations with. So it shouldn't take you that long to make, and the blend space doesn't need to be perfect or good. If you run into issues, that's great. That means that you're trying, and then we can look into those issues. But other than that, that was all for today.